Okay, in this video, we will learn a weird behavior specifically regarding the vertical margin, which is called the margin collapsing or margin collapse. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, what I'll do, I'll get rid of this. Okay, and I will get rid of these CSS as well. Okay, so we have an empty slate once again. And here what I'll do, I'll create like h1 margin collapsing, and then I will create two h2, basically h2 times 2. Okay, the first one like the first heading, and the second one the second heading. Okay, now if we go to the browser, now as you can see, there are some margin applied to the A headings, basically the H1 and H2s. Okay, so what I'll do here for the H2, let's do a margin of 0 and see what happens. Now the two H2, basically these two H2s are like very much all together. Okay, there is no gap, which is expected. Now what I'll do, I will add something like margin bottom of 50 pixel. Okay, so now you might be thinking, okay, so there should be a 50 pixel margin bottom. Okay, so here it is. So if I just go here, so as you can see, here is the margin, which is 50 pixel, and for this H2 as well, we have the margin of 15 pixel in the bottom, which is nice. Now what I will do, I will go here and add some class names or IDs, something like that. ID of heading 1, and I will add another ID of heading 2. Okay, all right. Now what I'll do, I will just get rid of that heading 1, and I will add the same thing heading 2 and margin bottom of, let's do 50 pixel. So this is what we expect. So there is the 50 pixel margin. Now what I'll do, I will add the same thing to the top margin. So margin top of 50 pixel, and here as well margin top of 50 pixel. Okay, now what should be the margin between the heading 1 and heading 2? So logically you might be thinking, okay, so there is a margin top of 50 pixel and margin bottom of 50 pixel on both of the headings. So the distance between these two headings should be 100 pixel. So this, for the heading 2, we have the margin top of 50 pixel, and for the heading 1, we have the margin bottom of 50 pixel. So that is why the difference should be 100 pixels. So the total margin between these two headings should be 100 pixel. Let's see how that looks. So now as you can see, it is not looking like the 100 pixel. And if I just select that, as you can see, it is 50 pixel. And if I go here, once again, this is the top, which is 50 pixel. So what is happening? So this phenomena, which we have just seen, it is called margin collapsing. Basically, whenever we are dealing with the vertical margins, so the highest amount of margin wins. like the magnitude of margin. So if I just go here, and for example, for this heading 1, if I just increase this margin with 60 pixel, so now the margin between these two headings will be 60 pixel. If I just select that, now here it is, this is the 60 pixel. For the heading 1, not the heading 1, the heading 2, as you can see, there is this 50 pixels of margin, but these margins are overlapping with each other, and this is only visible whenever we are dealing with the vertical margins. Whenever we are dealing with the horizontal margins, the margins just add up, which I will definitely show it to you as well. So here it is. So now if I just say like, okay, so this is the margin bottom, which is 60 pixel. Now I want to increase this margin top with 80 pixel. Now if I go here, now the difference between them, basically the margin between these two headings will be 80 pixels. So here it is. So this is the 60 pixel of margin bottom in the first heading, the heading 1. And then in the second heading, what we have the margin top of 80 pixel. So the total margin in between these two elements is basically 80 pixels. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what about negative margins? For example, let's work with these two. For example, if you have negative margin of 80 pixel and then negative margin of 20 pixel, you might be thinking, okay, negative 20 seems bigger than the negative 80, but it doesn't work like that. So the margin between those two elements will be negative 80 pixel, not the negative 20. Okay, it is just encountering the magnitude of the margin. That is all. It is just getting the magnitude, like, hey, okay, this is the 80, whatever it is. If it is negative or positive, I don't care. If this is 80 and this is 20, then the margin will be 80, and if that is negative, then the margin will be negative 80. So yeah, this is a little bit of the confusing thing. Now let's do the same thing which we have done. If I just do something like do display of inline block, once again I will do the display of inline block. Okay, and now what I'll do, I will add a margin of right of something like 20 pixel and margin left of 20 pixel. I will do the same thing. So margin right of 20 pixel and margin left of 20 pixel. Now these are inline block, so it will be inline. Okay, so the headings will be inline. Now what you think, what will be the margin in between these two elements, like these two headings? So now we are dealing with the horizontal margin, and here margin collapsing does not work. So if I go here, as you can see, now what we have here, we have, as you can see here it is. So here we have 20 pixel for the heading 1, and then for the heading 2 we have another 20 pixel. Okay, so margin collapsing do not work in the horizontal direction, but for the vertical direction margin collapsing do work. And yeah, that is basically the behavior which CSS provides us. So it is a little bit of the tricky side to understand, but I hope you are able to understand that, like what is margin collapsing. And right now, whenever you want to just space out the elements vertically, you have to use the margins accordingly, and you have to keep in mind what margin collapsing is. Okay, all right, so this is the margin collapsing in CSS.